Success is something that we know a lot about at Long Shot Books. There's plenty of success on our end. So we thought we would talk about it.
We're just going to spend an hour talking about how successful we are.
Plenty of accomplishments.
So many.
Merits. People love us.
Absolutely.
So one of the things with becoming any kind of artist is you take a tremendous risk, essentially, because you're forfeiting any real objective or a social standard of success. You're not going to make a lot of money or be a business owner by doing it. You're basically going an alternative route to make a life for yourself if you want to do it professionally. Even if you don't professionally, then that leads into the question of, so if you're writing as a hobby, then are you a success, or is success living off your writing? And the funny thing with it is that it's really just a personal thing. It's a very boring thing to talk about, really. It's a very simple thing to talk about because success is what you make of it. So for the next hour or half hour, it's going to be, well, really, success is what you feel in your heart. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I know I'm right.
Totally, yeah.
That was a successful introduction.
It was. Beautiful. On our work about success, yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. There's something ahead of us that's just really distracting.
The pizza park?
Yeah, it's the sign just keeps flashing. I want to go there.
I was pretty distracted by the pizza park, too.
Yeah, there's no one in there, but it's open.
That's a successful billboard.
Yeah, that's a very successful business.
Now, what's more interesting to talk about than success, actually, is failure. and actually, I'm a bit of an expert on that. It's like, you didn't finish. You rage quit Parks and Recreation.
I did.
But Aziz Ansari's character, he's like this failed businessman. He's always coming up with these get-rich-quick schemes. And eventually, at the end, his happy ending is he becomes a success by writing a book on how not to be successful after all of his failures. And that's kind of how I feel as a writer. I'm not allowed to promote my book with the company. I'll get fired. That's kind of my job at the company, is to find out what I'm not supposed to do and then do it. That's basically, that's my position. I'm a loose cannon, but I don't get my job done. That's going to be it. I'm going to say that sentence every day, probably the next year. Yeah. That's just going to be my thing now. You don't get to choose your nickname, but you choose your catchphrase. And so I'm not saying go buy my books. My books aren't even for sale, most of them. But if you did buy my books, they all go to charity anyhow. So you're not giving money to me. So really, what am I promoting? Is Marie going to fire me for saying that? We'll find out.
Keep on watching.
But what's so interesting to me is, so for instance, my most recent book I put out, I won't even name it. I'll just say my most recent one. As far as I'm aware, it sold 0 copies. I think 1 copy has been made because it's print by demand, and that was my own little personal proof copy. And I'm much more proud of that than...
I bought a copy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So there are 2 copies in existence that I'm aware of. And I'm much more proud of that than I am pretty much anything I've done in my life. And I'm not even saying it's a total success in the way that it accomplishes everything it sets out to do. But how I feel about it emotionally, internally, within my hero's journey, is that I think success is setting a goal for yourself and doing it to the best of your ability and just doing your best. And with that particular book, that's what I would consider a success for me. And that's basically my whole point that the rest of the episode is going to be saying, that it's about not being a pussy. Because I was in a film group called Renaissance Men for a while, for about 3 years, I think. I was actually 4. Holy crap. I was there for almost 4 years. It was like 3.5.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Anyhow, so the last feature-length film that was made by Renaissance Men while I was there, I know there was another feature-length that came out after. I haven't seen it. I don't know much about it. It's got a black and white Halloween theme. But the first one was nuts. It was hardly even a film at all. It was a series of vignettes and just surrealist jokes. It was a parody on Eraserhead and Blue Velvet and Jodorowsky films. And we showed it to everyone the summer after we made it in Clarion, and it was an okay turnout. Except the people who saw the movie didn't like it. The people who liked the movie are the people who made the movie. And I remember that it was very awkward. And I was worried that I had ruined it. I was really, I apologized to people. I was like, I'm sorry, I ruined the movie. and then we rewatched it alone later on. And it was a great time. We were just laughing at everything. We were laughing at the stuff we did wrong. And it was really kind of a proud thing, just for our friendship. And the fact that we wanted to make this stupid, crazy movie, and we actually did. I mean, really off the wall stuff. And so then the follow-up And I try to be cautious when I'm talking about these things. I don't like to disparage people that I work with ever. I try to only speak on my own failure, but I'll talk about other people's success. So I'm going to preface this by saying that everybody who worked on the second film, second act, I think did give it their best. They did try and put a lot of genuine hard work in. The issue is I was really disillusioned by a lot of stuff at that point once we started production on the film. And I basically withdrew about halfway through completely as a creative entity. I was supposed to co-direct, co-write, and act as kind of a supporting role in a lot of it. And I really just wasn't acting at all in my scenes. I had given up, just didn't want to put the effort in. I stopped writing pretty much entirely, or if I did, it was very lazy. And directing, I was a non-presence on set because I was just removed from. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that just communication errors on my end, just all around kind of a sloppy production, in my opinion, which was, I'm not gonna say it's nobody's fault. I'll say it was partially my fault, but I'm not saying that it was partially anyone else's. So we premiered this movie. Huge turn. I was like, you were there, weren't you, Marie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you worked on the movie a little bit, actually, for behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah, there were at least like 30, 40 people there. Like, it was, like, we crammed so many people into that room.
Yeah, and it was like a really good turnout, and everybody really liked the movie. And it was the biggest failure of my life, I say all the time. I remember I was sitting there watching it just fuming, to be honest. And which wasn't mature. That's not the good thing to do. I shouldn't have been that way, I'll say. I couldn't handle that this baby that I had helped raise, in my opinion, turned out to be a fucking loser. Is how I felt about it. That's mean. That's how I felt. That's not what I'm saying it is. In that moment, the character that I was back then felt that way. But after the movie was done, there was like so much applause. So many people got up and were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." You know, nobody came up to me because I think like I was such a non-presence by the end of it. I had no interest in representing the movie and being a part of the movie. But people came up to the dude who directed it. They came to the cast like, "Wow, you guys did such a great job. We can't believe you did this. It's really impressive." And all that stuff was. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't. But there was a lot of feelings on that, like, why would people like this movie? This movie sucks. And there was also just a feeling of loneliness, you know, that being alone in a crowded room vibe, and just failure. Just saying, you know, this movie that I don't like, a lot of people got something out of that I didn't. And I do have to this day, I have serious issues with the storytelling and certain elements of the filmmaking. With that said, I'm more upset that I didn't put all my effort into it. I didn't commit to the project as I should have. I had every responsibility to do, which was a failure not only for the project, but it was also a failure for Renaissance Man. I would say that was not solely, but very, very, you know, the straw that honestly broke the camel's back in Renaissance Man. It was a shit show from the start. That's what made it so beautiful. But that was when it started to really fall apart internally, I think. And things got really complicated. Even though we made some stuff after that I thought was really fun and I'm really proud of as well. And I'm proud of certain things within it.
I would say it probably was one of the last big projects you all worked on.
Yeah, and well, so much of that too was, and this is totally off topic from success, but we're talking about failure here and failed companies. This is our company. I'm talking about my failure of the old company, the difference actually. And this is integral to what we do at Long Shot Books. A lot of it to me, I stopped communicating while I was so stressed with college, with work. And, you know, I stopped giving 100%, saying like, you know what, I got class at 8 in the morning. I'm going to stay up till 4 filming this scene. Illegally, probably, in this place that we're not really supposed to be at night.
No permits.
Yeah, this guerrilla filmmaking. You know, I stopped committing in that way. I was exhausted all the time. And there was a lot going on other than just that. I mean, nobody in Renaissance Man, to my understanding, is still in it now, which it has a different title now. I don't even know if you can call it the same thing. And it's successful now. That's really cool. I'm happy for the dude who runs it now. Be Kind Rewind, I think is the name of the channel. And there's good stuff on there. It's really fun. I like it. I watch it sometimes, which is weird because that's like keeping up on your ex. but I'm happy to see someone be successful that I worked with, and you know, we failed together. So that was a cool little kinship there.
Yeah, and I noticed, I guess, like going back to like the whole like topics of success and just being a successful author, and I've noticed it just seems like it's very.
Oh, you motherfucker!
Damn great car,
I was
Mr.
talking
Green.
to Marine.
Oh my God.
Nothing to do with driving.
But with the whole you not selling any books thing except to me and to yourself for that print copy, even then, you didn't make any money, but
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I wasn't well enough aware of that.
It was a joke that fell flat that was not successful, which is probably gonna be a recurring theme for me today, is telling things that fall flat. But it seems like, okay, to be a successful author, like a lot of people come to mind, like, okay, the Stephen Kings, the J.K. Rowlings, the people who have the influence, who have the numbers, who have the sales, who have this fan base, and if you're not that level of known, you're just sort of viewed as like not as successful, at least from my experiences, because even
Now,
so,
let me get this straight. You're saying on camera that you think that people who don't have huge fan base or money, they're failures.
no, oh my gosh, no, I just mean that from the conventional sense, and I don't agree with that at all, because I think it boils down to like a lot of that is just your intention, because it seems like when I've been thinking about success and thinking about everything in this in preparation for this video, I noticed that there are about 3 big things that I've noticed. The first being that success just seems to be very measured in very quantitative points, I guess, like how many sales you're making, how, the square footage of your house, like how much money you're making, how many books you've sold, and all those kinds of things. And then when it does get quantitative, it pretty much just relates to how other people think of you. Like, what are your reviews like? What are your critics saying? How many... I don't know.
Well, another thing to say about that boils on any profession, no lad. Like, who are your references?
Yeah.
Where have you worked? What can you show for yourself? And I get that. Because there is, as an adult, whether you like it or not, you're creative type, you have a responsibility to provide.
Yeah.
If you're 26 and you've never worked a job in your life, like, yeah, people are going to think that's kind of kooky. That's an eccentric thing to do, to essentially be this vagabond kind of person. And that applies to writers because, so let's say you get a degree. You have just invested a ton of money into something with almost no financial prospects. Like, I made it. I don't know how. I got very lucky. When I moved to Pittsburgh, I was paying for my groceries on a credit card, and I had to use my paycheck to pay off the credit card. I basically maxed out at the end of the end of the pay week on payday, and now I'm able to run this company, and I have the money to pay for other people's books and help them who may not, which is exciting. So, like, if I would have been like, you know what, man, I'm a writer. I don't need this. I don't need your idea of success. I would be living in my mom's house. So I get that. I'm not saying that's how you should value yourself. I'm not saying that's someone's worth or their material belongings. I think that's a major point that's going to come up here is you have material desires, and then you have, I'm not going to say in like a religious sense, but ethical wants, and things you need to live, literally, and then how you want to live as a human being. And it's tough when you're a writer because you want to be true to yourself and this goal, this dream that you have. When I say writer, that could apply to anything. It doesn't have to be writing. You could, if you're a musician or a filmmaker, whatever. I'm just using it because we're a publishing house. Mm-hmm. You're taking a risk. You're saying, I think that I have this and I can make a living off this. If you drop that money to go to school, so then the pressure begins. And that's very normal. It's very alienating to talk to people like, what do you go to school for? Oh, I went for criminal justice, and I got an internship. I'm going to have a job that I'll make like, I don't know, $40,000 in the first year or something. I don't know how much they make.
Yeah,
but
probably more than that.
I don't know. Criminal justice probably.
I feel like I gotta look this up.
Anyhow, so like, yeah, you're a writer, and it's like, yeah, I have no job prospects.
Yeah.
I used to tell people, they'd say, as an English major, what do you want to do? What's your goal in terms of jobs? I'm like, well, my goal is not to have a job. Actually, I was hoping not to work when I get out of college. I'm not too fond of this wage stuff, but
it's all a construct.
Yeah, in a way. It's a literal construct, but also the pressures and everything are there. And it's like, I'm 25, and not getting married or having kids anytime soon. So that pressure's there, and how much of that is biological, how much of that is social, and very much the writers. I think it's the same way, and I think that like having that successful child on a bookshelf is a constant pressure, economically and otherwise. Getting published, a lot of publishers, there are social cues. I think a lot of publishers, actually, I think a lot of publishers are pieces of shit. They disgust me. I don't like those guys. There's a lot that are really cool, but a lot of them just are unfathomably vain and shallow, and I'm going to say stupid. But we're trying to kowtow to them. We're trying to impress them, you know, kiss their feet. I don't like the term bootlicker because it's so like, you can just say anybody's a bootlicker for any reason. It's a little too vague of an insult for me. But that's almost how it is sometimes as an author, getting this approval, seeking this approval. So the agent will send it to the publisher to approve, and then the publisher will approve it. Does the public approve it? Do the critics approve it?
And then it just gets easy to fall into that approval trap, that I guess, I don't want to say self-seeking behavior, but just that.
You seek validation from others.
Yeah, and you fall into this trap of, I'm not a real author unless I get published, unless I get, you know, all these rave reviews, unless I have that Stephen King level of influence.
And that's right.
Yeah, and you fall into that trap, because I've fallen into that trap a lot of the time, and also into that, you know, you're comparing your first draft to someone else's final, and you're like, you don't know how much editing that has gone through, or how many changes that has gone through, unless you're Stephen King and you just don't let anyone edit your work, you just publish whatever you put on the page, which...
That's not fair.
What?
Tabitha King edits. That's true. His wife,
No.
she proofreads
Yeah.
for him. I don't know if anybody else does, but they give some credit. He gets approval from his wife.
Yeah,
His respectable husband. Well, the thing for me with those books, and I think about it all the time, and you know, it's easy, to be spiteful almost, to be like, oh, well, you know, I've got smart books. I don't have those Big Mac books like on the shelves at Walmart, you know. And really, you have to keep in mind that they are professionals in the same way that, you know, when I come into work every day, I do my best at my job every day, but like, I'm doing it to make a living, even though I do care about it. And I feel very much the same way about like Stephen King, or more so than him, Tom Clancy. I've never read a Tom Clancy book. I probably never will. It just doesn't interest me personally. But like, I think it's easy to be like, well, he's just writing the same spy books over and over and over again. He's not challenging himself. He's not doing this. It's like, well, he has a market and he meets that demographic. I mean, it's hard to get mad. It's like, yeah, do I blame Tom Clancy for wanting to make another $100 million so his children's children will never have to worry about money in their lives? No, I get that. With that said, with my particular books, or what I do, with anything, even movies, the movies, I mean, were very unconventional in certain ways. If I could make the money Stephen King books by writing the best Stephen King book, or I could make no money writing the worst book I've written, which is up for debate which one that is. There's pretty stiff competition there. I wouldn't trade my worst book for his best. And I'm not saying that my worst book's better than his best. I don't believe my best book is as good as his like mid-tier. With that said, I'd rather be true to myself and do what I'm doing than do what somebody else did successfully.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the whole Tom Clancy thing. It's like, yeah, he's not challenging himself as an artist, but, you know, maybe his definition of success is just different than yours. Because I know you've been working on your football book project, and you said that's really been challenging you as an artist, and you've been doing all this research, and I know you've been telling me about it all the time. It's very different than the stuff that you've done in the past. Even like Conditional Love versus Second Act, you've made leaps as an artist. You challenge yourself in a lot of different ways. So I'd say probably your version of success. Maybe, I don't know if this is accurate.
That's a very weird thing. I think Second Act, you know, that to me, that book is the equivalent of showing up at a coffee shop in flannel, and you're on a first date. You're trying to get laid. That's what Second Act felt like to me. Whereas, you know, you're presenting the best foot forward. Whereas something for me like Conditional Love, and it's not autobiographical at all. I mean, there's themes I relate to for sure, emotions I felt. I relate to the characters in the sense I put myself in that mental position almost like an actor would. With that said, that book's like, that you know, that's just the absolute worst of somebody. You know, I was really torturing myself with that one, just like intentionally drinking so much caffeine I get into a panic attack, and I just like think for like, as I'd exercise and get like my heart rate up before writing it, and I just think about like all my failures, and you know, I wasn't a good enough writer. Maybe if young daughter was good, blah blah blah, wouldn't have cheated on me. You know, she likes his dick better than mine. Just crazy self-torture stuff. So, yeah. So I'm crazier now. That's my point. It's basically I'm off my meds.
That's success.
Yeah. Well, that is the thing too. It's, I mean, you know, you could say that about me and then listen to Black Flag. So Black Flag successful, I'd say. They're not AC/DC, and AC/DC successful too, but they're doing two different things. I'm not quite sure how I got there.
I'm not either.
You brought up the two projects, and I was
Yes.
like, hold on now.
Yes.
Don't compare my best to my worst.
No, I should say it's Young Adulterer versus Conditional Love. Like, even between those two books, like, one's a sequel to the other. The difference in structure, the risks that you've done, the lack of page numbers in Conditional Love, and all those kinds of differences. Like, so maybe
That was the Blue Album compared to Pinkerton. That's how I see it. No, it is. It's true. Even down to the point where, you know, Weezer with Pinkerton, they built their own studio, and they produced it themselves. And, you know, I didn't let anybody read the book before I released it. I finished it and I hit send like the same fucking day, which is something I'd never done before. I go through 5 drafts for every book, but I wanted that almost like a punk rock or like classic Right to Springs era emo vibe, and I wanted that roughness. I wanted that raw emotion for so much of it, which I brought for a reason, because I don't want to talk about my art or my books. Like, that's my focal point. Sorry, I've published my own books for 10 years. This isn't a Todd Crawford company in that way at all. My books aren't indicative of the company. With that said, when I think about books and how to make them, I'm not going to be thinking of someone else's books. I can only draw from my own life experience, which I feel arrogant about talking for half an hour or so about my own books. With that said, with Weezer, with Pinkerton, you have the Blue Album. They were on top of the world. They were the next big band after Nirvana, or one of the next 100 big bands after Nirvana. Everybody was during that time. But then after that, you know, they went and they did Pinkerton and bad reviews. I don't know the sales, but it was panned at first and had very small following, vocal but small following. And then, you know, now it's 10 out of 10 on Pitchfork. It's the Weezer album. It's considered their artistic high point by many people. And what's kind of interesting about that, though, is that Rivers Cuomo, after doing that album, he disowned it. He was like, oh my God, that was embarrassing. I shouldn't have done that. I don't think they even perform the songs very often live. I'm not totally sure. Not really a huge fan where I track every step of their career, even though they are a very interesting band with a fascinating career. They have a very interesting Wikipedia page, I'll give it that. But anyhow, then after that, he went back to the Green Album, and they want to be radio friendly. They wanted to, you know, they make believe with Beverly Hills and all that, and people fucking hated it. It was not successful, and I think that says a lot too. Is that, like, I think audiences many times see through dishonest efforts. I'm not saying that Weezer's later on were dishonest, or, you know, I'm not like saying that. I actually enjoy a lot of their work between their High Point and White albums. Last album I enjoy really anything off of, but you know, I think there's glimmers of brilliance on every one to some extent, even if that's a track or a solo. But my point is, and this goes back to, I want to have Eric Zavinsky eventually if we ever get him on.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say his name?
I mean,
I don't really give a shit.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it. Yeah. I've been on his show enough times that I think I can say his name. But I'd like to have him in the back seat sometime as a guest speaker.
That would be great.
That'd be a lot of fun. What we did, though, we were writing for this thing called the Odyssey Online, which is a goofy little internship that you can do as an English major. And in Clarion University, that's one of the only ones that were really available that I was aware of for creative writing. And we wrote our own stuff, which is kind of weird and off-kilter, especially for that site. And we would sometimes get hits, sometimes we would not. But what I noticed was consistently, the only time I got hits was when I wrote about something I truly cared about and had an investment in personally. I won, it was a competition to see who gets the most clicks, and the only time I won was like the most personal one. Like, it wasn't about a movie, it wasn't about the president or something. We were kind of encouraged to do political stuff. That's when I started to think more politically minded, because they're like, hey guys, Trump stuff's pretty big, you'll get a lot of clicks, so it wasn't like, that makes him cry. I mean, it wasn't that way at all. It was just like, hey, if you guys want more clicks, that's what you do. So I try to do a current event once a month at least. Those were current events at that time. Anyhow, so I do those and I'd phone it in. The clickbait topic. And I didn't get the clicks. And I think the reason why was because I didn't care. and you could tell I didn't care. You could tell it was my article of the week as I was swimming in homework and stress and poverty. So I wrote this stupid article about, oh yeah, somebody said that Trump did this, and some people say he didn't, and maybe he did, maybe I didn't. I don't really know. So here's my article. You know, that's not compelling. But I'd write something about, like, you know, my grandmother's passing, which was my first article, which is the one that won the most clicks that week. And it's very personal, intimate, and, like, there's not hundreds or thousands of people searching my grandmother's name. My grandma's name's not in the article, of course. But I think that genuine interest, I think that the passion is infectious. I think people do catch on to that, and they do recognize it. Now, on the flip side, Eric, and this is why I named him, because this is one of my favorite things anybody's ever done, one of my favorite pranks. He wrote an article intentionally that was structured after every clickbait listicle on the site, and it was like top 15 best reasons about going to school in a small college town, and it was just stuff like getting hot chocolates in the winter, you know, the trees are beautiful in small town Pennsylvania, your friends, you know, and it was clearly kind of satire, but he played it straight enough that you could read it that way, as opposed to like his tech articles or gaming stuff. He's running gaming journalism, and I think he has a job doing that. I hope he does. I bet anyhow.
That's why we need him in the backseat of the car, so he can tell us all.
Yeah, so he can clarify all the things that I lie about with his life on accident by sheer stupidity. But no, I really like that guy. You got to check out his stuff because he's a great journalist. I really respect him, and he's always fun to talk about.
I loved working for him as an editor.
I didn't like working with him on a film.
Really?
Oh my god, it wasn't the worst film experience ever. But
Oh my
it's
gosh,
fun. I can laugh
you're-
about this.
Okay.
No, it's funny. I'd say it's to his face. He's just so intense, and I was so stressed. This after David Bowie died, I was drinking all the time. I didn't have my lines memorized because, like, I wasn't used to scripts on sets. So, like, he had all this stuff like, okay, we're gonna talk 10 minutes, and I know every line, and I'd be like, well, we're not gonna like cut between, or we're not just gonna make it up as we go. And he said, you said let's go to the point, not that point. And I'm like, dude, and he's just really, really intense, and like, he almost tore my tooth out. That's probably my tooth chipped, actually. I have a chipped tooth right at the top, and he had a prop gun that I fillet in this scene in this movie.
Yes, I remember.
Because I played a woman's role. We were supposed to have an actress and an actor, and the girl never showed.
Oh.
So at the last second, it's like, all right, it's two dudes now, and she's trying to seduce this guy who's basically threatening her life and holding her hostage. And he puts a gun in her mouth, or no, he puts a gun at her face, and she fillets it to try to seduce him. It's a weird, grimy kind of joke. We're really into exploitation and stuff, and I did that. And he's supposed to kind of tear it out like disgust. Well, he tore it out too fast, and it got my fucking tooth.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me this now.
No, it's funny. I laugh about that experience all the time, but it was stressful in the moment. It was more my fault than his, because he was doing his job. I was not doing my job. So, anyhow, yeah, we got to talk to him at some point, even over Skype. But that's a case of that was a very stressful thing. The director, one of my best friends. I hope I work with him again soon. We're trying to get stuff together. He really pulled together and did a great job, and that was successful. People like that. It was a lot of fun. We showed it to like people who live filmmaking, and they enjoyed it as well one time. So I guess we were just talking about my success. That's what this is become. I made the joke, and now it's literally just, I worked on this film, and it was stressful, and then it was really good.
Yeah.
Everybody loved my work. No, I was awful in it. My acting was so terrible, but that's what makes it funny too. I was like a crazy person because I was so stressed on set.
It's a fun as hell thing to watch, and I think.
Yeah, but don't look at it. We're not promoting it. We're just saying this is a great thing that you should see.
No, it was.
That's just a factual statement.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not promoting the moon by saying the moon's out tonight. I'm just saying the moon's beautiful, and I wish that you were looking at it while I was.
Yeah.
So, he wrote this article, and he wrote this fake article. And totally just a prank, a thing that we were laughing about, because I was really against the clickbait stuff at that point in time. It's funny because I enjoy it now. I have a lot of fun with it now. I'm kind of become a defender. I don't like when serious issues are clickbait, like 15 people who died the latest bombing. I think that's kind of distasteful. I hope that doesn't actually exist. That's an exaggerated.
Hope not either. That would be awful.
Top 20 victims of a shooting.
That's awful.
But yeah, whoever came up with that's a real jerk.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not real.
I hope not.
Hopefully I'm that jerk. But But I don't like that stuff. But like, you know, top 15 best movies of the decade. That's fun. Who
Yeah.
cares? But so he wrote this article, and he won immediately. More hits. I think like 1,000. It was nuts. And we were getting like, at least me, I was getting like, you know, 20, 90 on a good week. So this was a huge incremental leap for the success we have been seeing. And he did that, and he proved the experiment. He won his $20 for being the top competitor, or however much he won. I don't know. I didn't win, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't want. But he never did it again. He just went back to doing what he's doing, and he did it honestly and respectably. And now he's doing really well for himself outside of that. And he's probably happier that he kept his integrity than if, you know, imagine right now professionally, he got wrapped into that. And he was like, all right, I'm now the guy that writes about going to college in a small town.
Yeah.
That's my niche.
Yeah, and he did really well for himself. Because I know back when I used to work with him at the paper, I mean, he was probably my most favorite editor because I really did like his drive that he had. Because I know I could write, he would give me an article that was due in like an hour, and he's just like, it's almost motivational, I guess, in a way, to know that someone who's just that passionate about what they're doing. Because I've been reading articles also about like success, and they usually say to be successful, surround yourself with people who are either doing better than you in the field or are doing something they're really passionate about, and that'll, like, I guess in a way motivate you. So I guess being around Eric is motivational. But
Oh yeah, totally. No,
Yeah.
I think about Eric all the time, like, especially when like we're in a weird situation, I'm trying to be a hard ass. I always say anytime that we have an issue at Long Shot Books, I have the same sentence when somebody's giving us grief. I just say, well, I didn't start a company because I like the taste of dick. So I would prefer not to have their dick in our mouth every time. And
This is true.
I think of Eric every time I do that. Every time I have to try to be tough, I think about him talking to some of his workers. He did it professionally and respectably. I don't. I'm just a jerk. But
oh, he's extremely professional. But and our contracts are like, hey, don't be an asshole.
is that really?
Yeah, we gave, and one person signed it.
One person agreed not to be an asshole.
Yeah.
That's all I could get. That was the
Of all the people we've asked.
deal breaker.
Wait, no, he didn't even sign. He just looked it over. He was like, yeah, I'll do this. I was like, what?
Yeah, we're very professional.
Yeah, we
around
are
here.
great employers.
Oh boy, I need this without my mom's calling now.
Oh, man.
I feel bad. I would pick it up, but I'm driving and we're
Yeah.
filming. But you know, my mom probably won't watch this. She probably won't see it. She's on Facebook, I don't think. But
You could
yeah,
just
I'm sorry, mom.
You could just
I'm a failure as a son.
Oh my gosh. But you could just successfully maneuver driving while filming while talking on the phone.
They say
This is a
the
video about
human voice
success.
has two sets of vocal cords. I heard that's some trashy horror movie, The Exorcist and Emily Rose, on the big budget trashy horror movies.
No.
And they say you have two sets of vocal cords, so you could speak twice at the same time or something like that, or have two different voices. If I could unlock that ability.
Yeah, like the movie Limitless, only it's good.
Yeah, I think in that movie, I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure that's the one where he could use his mind and do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he finds out he can unlock his eyes to look in two separate directions, like a chameleon. So he's looking in like one's left and
Yeah.
one's right, and
Yeah.
he's constantly scanning everything.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what that movie's about.
Just that particular scene, yes. Bradley Cooper becomes a chameleon. That's just what the movie's about. Don't watch
And he
it.
fights
Just take our word.
Spider-Man.
Just don't watch it. Take our word on it. That's exactly what happens.
So I'm trying to get back. I'm going somewhere with the. I'm really trying to think. I feel bad. I was gonna like start name dropping some good writing companies in the Pittsburgh area that I respect, and I was like, let's think. What are the good companies with integrity? What are good examples of successful companies that are also respectable? And I forget.
Somewhere in proximity. I know there are a few, and I'm like, damn it.
There's good companies.
Yeah.
Just not. No, I'm not gonna say not book ones. I know when we got creative nonfiction, I used to live right by them. They seem all right.
Yeah.
You got Autumn Leaf. I don't know anything about them. I know they're successful, but I don't know how I feel about them as people.
House.
Whatever.
The Autumn Leaf is named the festival that we go to.
I like Midnight Zone Production. They do movies and stuff. I respect that a lot. I'm just name dropping them because they're friends of a friend. But they're very successful, and it's nice to see moral people do well in the company. Like, you think that, like, you'd have that Hollywood idea, you know, what's his name? That horrible person. Weinstein? Was that his name? No, it wasn't Harvey Weinstein. Everybody knows his name now. I mean, he's
Joss
like...
Whedon.
Yeah, he was Me Too'd, actually. He slept with all his actresses, allegedly. His ex-wife came forward and said
Oh.
he's a total creep bozo. One of those wolves in disguise, feminist kind of types. Just like, I care about women's rights and all that. Why don't you come back to my bedroom? We could talk about Anita Sarkeesian or something. And then he takes advantage of them. So that's disgusting. But, oh, God. He is the... Oh, maybe it is Harvey Weinstein. And it doesn't matter. He slept with everybody.
Yeah. This is
Really
true.
grimy dude. And you think about that when you think about, like, becoming a creative type. That's all there is. It's just, like, rock stars and, you know, everybody's sleeping with people, doing all these drugs, and it's really not the case at all, which is kind of nice. What I've noticed with writers, actually, they're very they're pussies. They're really you know, they're alone in a room all the time, like to write. They're usually not like the most physical people, so like you don't have that kind of culture. I don't think there's not that kind of pressure where it's like, hey, if you want to succeed, you know, you got to be in here, do this. I don't think I've ever really seen that. I mean, there's like the whole political pressure that we had with our own company, but I think that's rare, to be honest.
I think so too.
I've heard from like a lot of authors I really respect. UK horror writers, the Ginger Nuts of Horror, have told me quite a bit about that being a thing in their community. But generally, it's been very pleasant, and I think it's because a lot of people are fake. And that's kind of cynical, but a big thing for me is like with that situation, you know, you have two options. You could say, all right, so I'm going to do what these people tell me to do, and I'm going to forfeit my ethics for someone else, and then they'll support me, and then people will come to my readings. Or you can say, no, my morals are plastic. I'm not going to let you bend them. I'm not going to kowtow to whatever you tell me I have to do to be successful. And if you have that reading, and there's one person that shows up as opposed to 100, at least you got one person who genuinely likes you.
Yeah.
I think about this all the time. I was transitioning into this, just not smoothly. My first book reading was at the Greenville Public Library, 2013, and I invited a ton of people, messaged them, Facebook invites, had the event. I was on a marquee outside of it. It is a small place. It's not like, you know, I wasn't like on Broadway or something. But I really tried to at least get a decent amount of people to show up. And I always refer to it as like a Gatsby's funeral of a book release, because what wound up happening with that was my mother's side of the family showed up, my dad's side didn't show up at all, and I don't know all of them knew about it, but the immediate family didn't bother. And so my mother showed up, my stepmom, my grandfather, my sister, my brother, and then you know, the Schicks, you know, RJ Schick of Renaissance Men, his family. And it was really, really disappointing. And it was very, I was kind of angry and embarrassed, you know, because nobody showed except for these people who already care about me, which means that nobody cared about my work or something, I don't know. And at first it really hurt and was difficult. But now I look back really gratefully that they all showed up. Oh, Ian from Renaissance Men was also there.
Yeah.
He wasn't in Renaissance Men yet, but this was right before we onboarded him to be our dude.
Yeah, I love Ian.
Yeah, we want to
He's
work with him
great.
sometime. I really hope we can. I'm in talks
I
with
hope
that
so,
now.
too.
Anyhow.
Love that guy. Sorry.
Oh no, he's great. He's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. But you know, back then, I was really embarrassed that nobody showed up. The failure was that nobody attended. Well, looking back, I remember I started and I had this whole thing planned out, and I kind of just like gave up halfway through. Like, I didn't just stop trying, but I let the embarrassment get to the most of me. Now, first of all, I had a very set up, like, I was going to come out like I was like Lou Reed or something. It was going to be a theatrical book reading, a totally, you know, revolutionary kind of thing. And I always say, you don't go electric at an acoustic venue. I learned that day. So, you know, I was kind of like, okay, this is silly. I'm not going to dress up and do all this stuff for my friends and family. That's so silly. And it was funny. That was kind of tongue-in-cheek. There was definitely humor there. I got out a guitar. I had this is stuff that a lot of people today do my age, which is something. Where I had this poem about this dude that my first girlfriend cheated on me with him on Christmas Eve. And I had a poem about that. And I had a guitar because the dude played guitar. And I held the guitar the whole time. I was like, okay, this one I'm gonna, you know, play an instrument as I read it. Well, I didn't. I just held the guitar the whole time, and then at the end I played the D chord. Because, like, you know, give her the D was a thing back then. So it was kind of goofy. But anyhow, So like halfway through, I was just like, you know what, guys, I just turned. I was going to be filmed and put on the internet. I was going to on the Renaissance Men page or something like that. And I was like, just turn the camera off. This is stupid. I did finish it and stuff. And you know, my mom, after I talked to her, and she's like, wow, that was a great turnout. That was really awesome. That, you know, your family showed up and your friends were there. That's so cool. And I was like, no, it was a failure. It was one of the worst nights of my life. I'm so embarrassed. And looking back on it, they're both true. Like, my mom was 100% right. I think all the good things I say with this company is just me repeating my mother. Anytime I say something that's not like a potential threat to our company or my safety, is something my mother told me. But no, she was totally right. That it was so cool that I had all these people who cared about me and wanted to support me, and I took that for granted. And looking back on like the failure of that night, it wasn't that people didn't show up. The failures that I didn't commit despite that. I let the circumstances get the best of me, and I gave in to that. Like, you know, voice in the back of my head saying, this isn't good enough, this isn't, you know, I'm not working. And even though it's still a tough memory, like, I still really value that and always remember that day and appreciate the people who were there. So, you know, I mean, it just goes to show that I don't always have successes. Sometimes I have mixed bags, or I have a success that I don't recognize was successful until later on.
Well, there's a saying out there, I can't remember where I read it, but it goes, don't let success get to your head or failure get to your heart. And I think even now, especially in, you know, being a writer, working in this profession, or even just in long shot, where it can be very discouraging, and a lot of what happened to us, and I don't want to get too much into that, I don't want to rip that back.
Are you talking about that time that we were in the hotel and you woke me up by farting?
No.
Oh, that was another time? I'm sorry.
What? No, I lost my train of thought, damn it, but, it can get really discouraging, especially with what happened to us, and never letting that completely tear you down, because that was a lot, and you can't take it to heart, when you can't take it personally, you can't take failure are your lights on?
Nope.
Okay.
Never.
Oh my gosh. And I think a lot of ways, like, Maya Angelou has it right. You know, success is, you know, liking what you do and just doing it right. And for me, at least, a lot of it being a writer and everything like that, like, I don't have as much of a writing career as I would like to have had. And a lot of it has to do with, I had to put a lot of my life on hold because of different life circumstances. I was going through some... You okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
no,
I'm just looking around.
No, I
This
thought
is
you were going to
nice.
say
It's
something.
scenic.
Yeah, it is.
No.
This is a really nice road.
I should probably be watching the thing we're filming.
Yeah, or at least the street. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I figured if one of us is at least looking at the road, the other one can, you know...
Yeah, I can't do everything.
No, I can't either.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, you're fine.
I was listening. I'm not asking like, sorry, I was listening to what you were saying. I'm saying, like, continue.
No, you're fine.
I can get the context and pick up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But I had to put a lot of my own life on hold. Like, a lot of my own career on hold, because life just got in the way, and I was dealing with a lot of things going on at home. I had kind of struggling with, like, mental illness in a way. I was drinking for, like, a brief period of time and going through my own shit, and I had to put that on hold. And I have people... And it does get kind of intimidating when you walk in and you see, like, all these, like, you go to readings, you go to open mics, you go to all sorts of events, and you see, you know, all these other people. You're like, wow, these people are doing so much better than me, so then why try? Or why do my ideas, like, not seem any good compared to this? Or I was reading over, like, my book last night that I spent, like, 7 years working on, but it's just one of those things where, for me, that book is just such an act of love, and it's changed so much. And I know part of success is, like, you know, starting what you, or finishing what you planned on working on. And for me, like, if I had finished what I planned on starting, like, this book would be completely different than what it is now. And I'm more proud of it now than I was even back when I first started it. And I think a lot of it also just boils down to intention. Like, I'm not really in the writing game to put out crazy amounts of output. I'm sort of in the game to produce work that I'm proud of, and produce work that I care about, and have people read my work and see, okay, she really cares about what she's doing. And a lot of the stuff I do is just very experimental and a very different. Yeah, it does take me a long time to put things out, but I know when I do, it's just work that it's my absolute best, and I don't want to put out anything, I don't want to sell out, I don't want to do anything mediocre. And
it's
I don't
funny.
know.
It just hit me that writing in an artist's creative output is essentially a sex drive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, think about it. Like, you're saying, like, oh yeah, I don't want to put out tons of output and all that. I want to make something good. Which, I didn't appreciate you slamming me like that. But
Oh God, no.
but I
didn't
was
mean it like
thinking
that.
about it. I was like, as you said, I was like, I probably don't put out enough. I got to do more. Like, I put out like a book a year on average, maybe a book every year and a half on average at worst. And I'm like, I need like 3 more a year. Like, I need it. Just all the time. Like,
Yeah.
some guys, like, they say that sex crosses your mind however many seconds. I don't believe that, but that's some stupid study that somebody said. And I think for me, that's how books are. I'm thinking about a book like all the time. Like, it drives me crazy. I become a weirdo. Like, some guys are single for so long, and they start to turn weird around women. That's how I am with books. Like, I don't write a book for so long, I start to get really weird.
Then okay, if we're going on this avenue, then I'm a whore then, because
Yeah.
because I commit to so many different projects at once. I'm like, I can't just commit and see one through at one time. I'm like, oh, okay, I want to work on this book this week, or next week I'm like, oh, I want to work on this short story, or I want to do a screenplay. I'm like, okay, I'm apparently this, like,
Indecisive.
yeah, I don't know what I want right now, I guess.
You remind me of a girl I'm dating.
Yeah.
That's a really mean joke. But I'd say it to her face. She can take it.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing. There's a quote by Clive Barker, and he said that, essentially short stories, it's like dating. You're with him for like, I think he did 3 weeks every short story. He would work on them. He said a book is like a marriage. And that's how he approached each thing, philosophically at least. And I kind of agree with that. So, you're right about feeling like a whore. It's probably guilt.
Yeah, for all the remorse that I'm feeling for not
Oh,
being
man.
able to commit and just cheating on my projects all the time. Been in a 7-year relationship and it just hasn't gone anywhere.
I mean, yeah, I'm in committed marriages where I just fantasize about other people all the time, essentially, the book equivalent. So, there's no right or wrong. It's just you are more wrong than me, but I'm wrong too a little bit, not much. But like a 99% out of 100 isn't a perfect score.
You clearly have the moral high ground over me in this situation.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that.
Yeah, you don't stand a chance.
I'm a slut.
So, shit, you threw me way off now.
I did. I do that. Like I said, I just distractions. I'm
Yeah,
a very
well, I
distracted
think
person.
well, that's another thing too, though, is you have authors like let's say H.P. Lovecraft. Like, is he a success? He's one of the most influential writers of the decade, and he's been dead forever. But in his lifetime, he wasn't like that big of a dude. I mean, it's hard to say what's going to come or how long it takes to be successful. I've read, and this was 10 years ago, so this could be outdated for sure. I actually believe it is outdated. I'm going to say the average age today of an author getting published for the first time is 30 to 35. When I read this a decade ago, they said 40 was the average age. So that's something to consider too. There's always pressure, and I like that you brought up people at readings and stuff. And I want to dig on them. People, especially people who don't create, I think are very quick to judge. They're like, yeah, that reading sucked, and I get it. Like, I'm not saying that they suck, but it's a different thing. Like, you're not going to see, you're not going to see Dave Chappelle give stand-up. You're not going to see some late night thing, Conan O'Brien, who's a professional and does it all the time. So the standard's different, I guess. And I'm not disparaging anybody. I'm not saying they're not doing a great job. The people we've seen many very, very talented people perform. With that said, I think it's easy to remove yourself from their position, even if they're just another human being like you. But I can straight up say, like, pretty much every person performing that I've talked to about it has said that they feel scared. You get up there and, like, it's hard. Like, when I perform, my legs shake and stuff. It's hard to have a voice at all, let alone to read something and keep your attention and then get eye contact, let alone, like, charisma. That's, like, extra credit.
Yeah.
If you can hold attention, that's, like, bonus points because you made it through your set. I mean, I really can't downplay how much I respect people who make it through a set at all, even if their voice is quivering the whole time, even if it's tough because it is. And there's some people who are really, really talented, like, Lexi Spino. I mean, I don't want to say anything too much, but, we set up a reading. Well, I set up a reading. This wasn't a Long Shot Books event. It was a me event. And there's another performer after her. And this girl said to me, you really fucked me over. I was like, why? And she's like, Lexi should have been the last one to perform. Why did you put her before me? There was no way I was living up to that, and you ruined my set. She was joking, but she was also serious. She wasn't seriously mad, but she was like, she was that good. Yeah, she is. Like, to get to that level, I don't even know. It's beyond me. Totally beyond me. So we're going to have to tag all these people so we get a few clicks.
I know.
So at least 3 people watched, like, Eric. I'm like, man, Todd, I can't believe you said that about me.
Like,
Unfriended. But that is the thing, too. Like I said, I think success is setting a goal for yourself and setting out and doing it. Even if it's not perfect, to give it your best and to do it. Like, I've never done anything perfect in my life, but I've done things I'm proud of.
I've done everything perfect.
And you're proud of all of it?
Every last thing. No, but I get what you're saying. And also, I think it goes to show, even just maintaining your character, maintaining your standard, maintaining, even just morality while going through accomplishing your goal, not achieving by any underhanded means or, hurting anybody in the process, whether intentional or unintentional, at least to the best of your, ability. I'm not saying it's okay to hurt people, but I'm just saying, like, I've seen people get to the top through, even in my own, like, workspace, like, this has absolutely nothing to do with writing, but even in a work context, I've seen people, like, claw their way to the top through some kind of doing some pretty unjust things. And I've seen also, in the same coin, a lot of people doing it through, just honestly, just sticking to themselves. And it's like, it shows. And, you even said the public, you can't lie to the public. People can sniff out dishonest work. And it's, like, you can't lie to people, I guess, as well as you should.
I think that's what's scary about people who are good at lying.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are frightening. That, like,
I know, it's
you can have a heart-to-heart with somebody, then you find out, like, oh, they lied to me. Like, that's horrifying to me.
It is, yeah.
That is one of the scariest things where I look back on. It's like, I think about Quint's speech in Jaws, where he's like, the eyes roll up into the head and the darks of their eyes. I expect someone that I've had a conversation like that, a very intimate moment, that lied to me, I expect their eyes to roll back up in their head like a shark or something. Like, there's nothing there. Yeah. It's just they're a robot or something. But yeah, no, I think that as much of success is just moral integrity and character. Like, I would personally, if I could maintain the success I have now, quote unquote success, I wouldn't give a shit as long as I was doing my best and being the best person I could, doing what I always thought was right. But if I could forfeit my ideals or my beliefs to become a billionaire, it'd be tempting, because, like, yeah, I'd like my mom to retire young, and my dad and everything, and help my brother out, I guess. But that's not, I don't know if that's worth it. Like, I get that temptation. I get why people do that, but I don't think it's worth it. I don't think I can live with myself, even though it's a small thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't be open to other people's ideas, or that you should be too stubborn. With that said, of course you should be open to collaboration and to hear different sides and everything. With anything in life, even if it's just making a book or a movie or an album or something, I think it's good to be open-minded. I think it's good to hear the other side. With that said, when you're uncomfortable or you truly feel something's wrong, and if you stick with it just to get success, and what success is, it's success on your lie. With quantitative things, if you worry about what other people think about your work and that defines your success, who are they to tell you you're not successful? I think about that all the time. Like, when I feel insecure about, like, my writing and where it's gotten me and stuff, I think, if I heard somebody judging me out loud the way that I am in my head, would I give a shit about their opinion? Would I respect it at all for being this materialistic and just horrible? And the answer is almost always no.
Yeah, and I guess going back to what you're saying, what price would you be willing to pay to be successful? I guess, first thing is, to define what success is to you, figure out how you're going to measure that, and then ask yourself, what am I willing to give up? What am I willing to do to reach that? And how am I going to keep myself intact, as my entire person intact, while I do that?
Yeah, so on that note, especially because it's getting dark, do you have much more to say? Are you content?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I guess I do. I'm like, where are we going? I've
We're in
never
the
been
woods.
this far. Oh, okay.
We look like we're entering an X-Files episode, essentially.
Cue the music. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I hate doing these stupid fucking disclaimers. I hate the YouTube culture. But, you know, thank you for listening. Please subscribe, watch more videos, and share this one.